So you're thinking about moving to Atlanta, but you're wondering, like, should I buy now? Should I wait? Are we heading into a buyer's market? What's going on with inventory? I need a home to live in, but is now the right time? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. Is as a buyer, is it the right time to buy our home? Are we heading into a buyer's market? And we're going to get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, or you've watched 100 of our videos,
or 1,000,
and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Atlanta, the good, the bad, eating, sleeping, working, playing, all that stuff, well then subscribe below, ring the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know when we release new content like this and stay up to date on the market. My name's Denny. This is...
I'm Jeff.
The team and I, we get calls each and every day from people just like you, and you and you and you and you and you looking to make the move to Atlanta. We absolutely love it. So whether you're moving next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, whatever's comfortable for you. Be happy to help you make a smooth move to Atlanta. As I mentioned in this video, we're gonna be talking about, are we heading into a buyer's market? Will the buyers have the upper hand? Are prices gonna go up? They're gonna go down? What's going on with the rates? All that kind of stuff. And so I always, whenever I have conversations like this, I always want to invite Jeff to join me, well, because he's got more experience than I do or anybody else on the team. He's been in the real estate industry for 22 years, producing at an extremely high level. He's seen up markets, down markets, high rates, low rates, high prices, low prices, lots of buyers, no buyers, lots of sellers, no sellers.
So what you're saying is I'm old.
I didn't say that. That's what he said.
Seasoned.
With all that being said, we are at one of our favorite breweries here in Marietta. What is this?
This is the...
Oh, come on.
Glover Park. Glover Park.
Here's what's funny about that.
I love this place.
It's literally like his favorite place. All he talked about all day when we were shooting videos was like, hey, we got to go to Glover Park Brewery. And then I'm like, what's this place? And he's like, no.
If it helps, I can't remember my anniversary either.
Cheers.
To
Just
you,
the
buddy.
important stuff like real estate interest rates.
You asked me about interest rates, we're gonna have fun. Do I remember my kids' birthdays? Only if my wife reminds me. Yeah.
Those are my kids' birthdays.
Cheat notes.
I got a cheat sheet right on my arm. When I look down and I move my sleeve, it's not because I'm taking a test, it's because I need to know when my kids were born.
There you go.
But enough about us. Let's get to the topic at hand. And we're going to keep this super concise because, well, we know that your time's valuable and we don't want to waste any of that. But we also know that, you know, changing or shifting markets breed some uncertainty. And we just kind of want to give you some guidance as to what we're seeing in the market here locally and what's going on. So with that, Jeff, rates are going up, inventory's creeping up.
Days on market's going up.
Days on market going up. More price adjustments than we've seen in two and a half years. What's going on?
This is what we call a normal market. And that's the fantastic news for all of us is we have been
Wait, there's not normally 30 offers on one house in one day?
No, that's not normal. If you've only been looking, this was your first house or you've only been looking for 18 months, what you think is normal, that's not normal. And we're about to move into normal, which is great news whether you're buying or selling a house.
So if I happen to be in the market for the last couple of months, maybe even a year or more, and I'm a little fatigued, I fall in love emotionally, I put in an offer and I'm like, they're not going to accept it because it's not $50,000 over, all cash, close in 2 weeks, bare my soul, and have no contingencies. Like, that's not normal?
It's not normal. And Denny, you know, so many of our clients are not experiencing what a lot of the market is experiencing because we have done a great job over the last 18 months of getting our people under contract, but so many buyers are getting dejected, they're getting demoralized, and they think what they've been experiencing is what's going to happen in the future, and it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, not to toot our horns, but you should know that, like, the majority of our buyers, we work with mostly
Almost all
buyers because that's what this channel is geared towards. We're talking about FHA, VA loans,
renovation loans, conforming, non-conforming, hard money. We're finding homes for our people.
$250,000, $2 million. Like, we haven't had the same experience where people are shopping for a year, you know, or even 6 months. It's like really dialing in exactly what it is that you want. And then when you say, hey, this is the one, we put together an offer that makes sense for you and will actually win. So what's going on in today's market?
Okay, so today's market is what we're going to call a flattening market. And what I mean by flattening is we have been in a hyper up curve and we're going to plateau off. It doesn't mean we're going to go down, and we'll talk about supply and demand in a little bit, but what we're going to see is a leveling off, and that's going to happen in 2 phases. Right now, houses that are being priced according to market, that are move-in ready and are in excellent shape, are still selling in 7 to 10 days, usually for full price or a little more. The interesting thing, according to the National Association of Realtors, is in the month of June, 36% of every home in the United States that was listed had a major price reduction at least one time.
That's 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3, which that's a result of people looking and saying, my neighbor sold their house, this neighbor sold their house, I can sell my house for the same price, but they didn't
Or
update.
more.
Or
Yeah,
more.
they
well,
got,
why couldn't
they
I?
got
I'm better than you
they
are.
got 430. How about 450?
They don't update, they don't fix things that are broken, and they assume that people are just going to come in because so many people are looking and will just settle. Now, Denny, I will tell you, I have friends who are in the real estate business whose clients did.
Yeah.
Just so you understand, we spend about 60% of our time talking our buyers out of homes in a super rising market because
Right.
we don't want them to make a bad decision. But what's going to happen, Denny, over the next 6 months is the market's going to level out. Instead of 40 offers per house, if it's a really great home that you're going to love, you may be competing with 1 or 2 people. I had buyers last weekend.
Yeah.
We didn't use an escalation clause. We had a due diligence. We had a financing contingency, and we still won because I talked to the realtor and she
Right.
said she didn't have any offers.
Yeah, and that will, or even if there is another offer, like they're reasonable.
Yes. Nobody's
I-
offering 100,000 over list right now.
So talk about how, historically low rate, like rates pre-pandemic, what happened in the
Okay.
pandemic, and why 2.5% wasn't necessarily a great time for most buyers.
Right. And this comes right from Lawrence Yun, the president of the National Association of Realtors. So pre-pandemic, interest rates were hovering right around 3.5%, which was a historically low rate. Because of the downturn and the giant influx of money that happened during the pandemic,
$10 trillion in 2 years.
that much money had an effect on interest rates. So interest rates actually shrunk all the way down to 2.5%. Today we're running at about 5.7, and 5.7 feels horrible when you compare it to 2.5. But that was
It's
only
less than
about
I got when I bought my first house.
that's like a 6-month window where we were below 3s. The rest of the time we were in the mid 3s. Here's the thing that nobody gets. When we were at a hyper low level, that's when we had 40 and 50 offers per house. So most people who got that fabulous interest rate did not get the house of their dreams.
Yeah, everyone's buying power went through the roof, so people just offered more out
Right.
of fear of loss for homes that they maybe
They
shouldn't
didn't
have
love.
bought.
Right.
Yeah.
They settled for the house that they won instead of waiting for the house that they loved. And that goes back to what I talked about, where our job is oftentimes to help talk you out of a house that you want to buy and tell you it's fine and that there's more time. So even having said that, 5 7/8 is a giant jump from 3.5. Now, I will tell you, Denny, my first house was 7 7/8, and when my parents moved us to Georgia in 1978, my father had a 16.25% interest rate.
Yeah.
So when you compare it historically, 5 7/8, or where we're probably going to end up this fall, which is in the mid 6s,
Yeah.
is still a great interest rate. It just feels horrible compared to where we've been.
Yeah, and I don't want to imply that 5.7 is just good because it's better than it was 20 years ago or 40
20 years ago, the houses were much less. So it does sting.
It does. And we're not immune to that, but here's what it does for the market itself. When we had 30 offers on a house in the first day, like if you were a buyer, you got discouraged, you made decisions that you shouldn't, you were operating out of fear. Now we're going to have prices leveling off, maybe even pulling back a little bit. Rates are going up, and so the cost of ownership has gone up. It's going to cool off this escalation, but it's also going to cool off the competition. And so to Jeff's point, like I would rather be shopping when I know there's a good chance that I can buy what I want, not that I have to stand in line for 4 hours and they sell out right before I get to the front of the line. You know what I mean?
No.
So
Yep,
like
absolutely.
I want to buy what I want to buy when I want to buy it. I don't want to have to hope that I get it. And so what I'm looking forward to is just this, you're calling it normalization of the market. It's where if you want to buy a house, you can. If you want to sell your house, you can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and you pick the one that you like that you can afford, not stretching for the one you can't afford because you're afraid that you're not going to have a place to live. Like, that's what I didn't like about that kind of feverish frenzy that was going on.
One of the hallmarks of a normal market is if you want a beautiful move-in ready house, you're going to compete with some people, but you shouldn't be competing with 40. But the great thing about a normalized market is if you're the kind of buyer and you're looking for a deal, there are a lot of people who put their house on the market, found something that they loved, and they're going to be very willing to compromise because their realtors have already told them they listed it too high.
Yeah.
So with our buyers, if we find homes that are 21 days or older on market, we're getting substantial discounts, especially if they've been listed by one of the national iBuyers. But Denny, even with that, the interest rate stings. What are our options? If I can't qualify, or I don't want to have 5 7/8 or 6 7/8.
Yeah, I think when you talk about financing options, everybody thinks of your conventional 30-year mortgage
Right.
or FHA or VA, lower down payment options. But an ARM is an adjustable rate mortgage, and I think they get demonized a lot in the media for people who don't qualify or who can't afford or that are really risky. And here's what I know. If we've been as low as 2.5% in the last few months, and if you believe there is going to be a softening of the stock market or the real estate market or the economy in general, well then rates are probably more likely to go back down than they are to go up. I think in the short run, we might see them continue to go up. The Fed's probably going to raise another 3 basis or 3/4 of a point here at the next meeting, and
26.
they might do it again by the end of the year. So we might continue to go up into the 6s and 7s. But if you look out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years,
5 years is the magic number.
you're going to be. I think we're going to be in an environment where rates are going down to 4, 3, 2, probably. Y'all think this is crazy? In over a dozen countries around the world, rates are negative.
Yeah.
Negative interest rates. They pay you to take money. Denny, how does that work? Well, the government pays the bank 2%, and the bank loans it to you at negative 1%, and they make 1%.
Correct.
Which sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, an ARM can work in your favor. I had an ARM on my first house that I ever bought that I talked about. I was at 6.5%. We went into the 08 crash, and my ARM adjusted. My payment went to next to
Down.
nothing.
Right.
And so,
And nobody who had a fixed rate, their payment
that
didn't
move.
go down.
Yeah. So if you look at a 3, a 5, a 7-year ARM, that means the initial rate is locked in for 3 years or 5 years, or so a 5-year ARM, the rate is locked for 5 years. So let's say you lock it instead of 5.7. I'm just
Right.
picking a number. You get a 5.35, and you lock that in for the next 5 years. But then over the next course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as things soften up and as rates start to go back down, that 5.35 could adjust to 5 to 4.75 to
Right.
4.5.
Well, and
And if it really goes down, then you can lock. So you want to marry the price of the home before it goes out of your budget, and you want to date the rate. So you marry the price and you date the rate, because you can switch rates later.
right.
You can't switch prices.
That's exactly right. It's kind of like I buy my house and I'm wed to it. I buy a car, but I don't like it in 2 years. I can change the car without changing the house. Now, Denny, the thing I want to make sure everybody understands is, so with that 5-1 ARM you're talking about, what that means is you've locked your payment for 5 years. So you don't have to worry about interest rates climbing and suddenly your payment goes up. It doesn't go up for 5 years. Now, this is the great part of this is, and again, we're always going to default to the experts. And the top expert on real estate in the United States is Lawrence Yun, the president of the National Association of Realtors. His prediction is that we're going to go up into the mid 6s, and then we're going to level off. And sometime in 3 to 5 years, when the federal government has inflation under control, the natural byproduct of that is interest rates will lower to start stimulating the economy once we come out of the recession, which should, according to his predictions, move us back down into the high 3s to low 4s.
And you can
And then you can readjust in 5 years.
you can get a 7-year ARM, a 10-year ARM, so you can lock it in for 7 or 10 years
Correct.
if you want. I mean, we have great lenders who work with all of these products that can tell you exactly what the current rates are and what the difference in a 30-year fixed or an ARM, a 3, a 5, a 7. and most people don't know this, but we have some relationships with some lenders who have special products that you really don't
Well, I
get
was going to
anywhere
ask
else.
about that. What if I find a house that's in my budget, that's really a great home, and remember, because we always talk about by area, then neighborhood, then home. So I find
Right.
a great area and a great neighborhood, but maybe it's not the best home in that neighborhood, but I want to take advantage of this protection against the interest rates rising. Can I do that?
Oh, 100%. And I wish I knew about these products when I started investing and flipping houses. Many moons ago, I renovated and sold my first home in 2006.
Did
But
you make money?
Yes,
Nice.
absolutely. Fun fact, my partner Peter and I have never lost a penny on a flip. Hundreds of flips, the thinnest deal was $1,200 profit. And if
$1,200 is $1,200.
Listen, if you flipped more than one house and you didn't lose money at some point,
You're an anomaly.
So if you're in the hundreds, you're doing pretty good. So I say that to say we've got all the contractors, all the architects, all the plans, all the designers, everybody that can help you. So I don't want you to be intimidated by this thought process, but you can actually use a renovation loan that's got a low 3.5% down payment, and you can borrow the acquisition cost, the price of the property, and the renovations all rolled it into one. And you can even do an ARM.
So I could find the house that works for $450, but it needs another $100,000 of renovation. So I can borrow $550.
Correct.
But still take advantage of the ability to lower my rate later.
Yeah.
And lock in a lower rate with the ARM today.
If you're, let's say you're relocating from across the country and you don't need to be here for 6 to 9 months,
Mhm.
you can literally buy it, roll 6 months of payments into the loan so that you don't have two
Wait,
mortgages.
I'm not making two mortgage
You're
payments?
not making 2 mortgage payments. Renovate it while you don't live in it, and then move here into a freshly renovated home and probably build equity into the home in the process.
Danny, do you know how many houses there are in Atlanta that are in great areas, great neighborhoods, but this is the one where somebody's parents lived and they got too old to do the maintenance, or somebody who'd never owned a home and didn't understand? So the house is structurally sound but needs love. How many of those houses are in North Atlanta? It's stunning. Here's the deal, buddy.
Hundreds of thousands.
No, according to the number of houses that need reductions, it's about 30% of the houses that are
Wow.
currently active right now
There you go.
fit this criteria, and almost all of those will either fit into that FHA conforming level.
Yep.
But our partner has a renovation loan that's on a conventional loan, so you're not even bound by the FHA limit. So if you
Wow.
found something that you loved at $650 that needed $200,000 more and your
Let's do
budget
it.
was $800, it works.
I love it. Well, listen, I know that was a lot to digest in one video. We always welcome questions in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe if you're getting any value from these, so you know when we release new content. And obviously, if you're thinking of making the move, we'd love to be a resource, help you make a
Absolutely.
smooth move to Atlanta. So whether that's next week, next year, anytime in between, call, text, email, whatever is comfortable for you. And until we see you in person, we'll see you on the next episode.